Hi, I'm Bonnie Kempke. Welcome to my studio and welcome to Quilting on a Thread. So today I wanted to talk about my latest acquisition. This is the Cutie Breeze. It's the as yet unreleased frame from the Grace Company. As you know, I'm one of 100 people who are on an advisory board where we're essentially testing this frame out and using it, some of us with domestics, some of us with wheeled quilting machines such as the Cunique. But after watching a video with Jacqueline and Cody, I realized that the documentation is incorrect. The documentation tells you to take those the screw-in rubber bumpers and put them in the hole on both the front and the back rail, but it tells you that that hole should be on the left side for both rails. The pictures indicate this, the text indicates this, but that is incorrect. The purpose of those bumpers is to protect your machine from bumping into the side rails. And if your bumpers were both on the left side, you'd be protected from the side rail, but not from the left side rail, but not from the right side rail. So the bumpers need to be on opposite sides. And ideally, you'll have the front rail on the right side, the bumper would be on the right side, and the back rail would be on the left side. The reason why I say ideally is because it's not necessary. However, if you're using a wheeled encoder, the instructions for the encoder tell you to put it on the right side. So if you were to put the encoder on the right side, when you're coming down here and you get to that bumper, your encoder is going to jump the bumper. You don't want that. So you want the bumper on the back to be on the left side, especially if you're using a wheeled encoder. I happen to have mine on the right side and the left side is up front. I'm not using a wheeled encoder. I'm using the speed control. You'll also notice that I don't have anything loaded on my frame at the moment. I did until I had to do all this switching around with the tracks, and while I was switching the tracks around, I thought, I followed the instructions for how to set up the gray clips on the side rails. Well, the Allegro and the Jazz 2 have what I call long lips. So you have a 12-inch throat, and that's from the needle to the back of the machine. You have a pretty shallow neck, that's from the bed of the machine to the roof of the machine. The lip is from the needle to the edge of the front of the machine. So in following the book's directions, the assembly directions, using holes 1 and 4, my front rail was closer to the machine, and I would come about this far and hit the rail, leaving me less than 6 inches of vertical quilt space. Vertical quilt space is from the back of your rail to the front of your rail. Well, I did not want a mere 6 inches. So by making a change, I gave myself the full 10 inches. I still have a lot of space out here in front, but I'm not hitting the rail. What's stopping me now is the neck of the machine, as it should. The neck is coming up to the back rail. That's always going to be the case. Your neck is always going to come up to the back rail, and the front of your machine should almost meet your front rail. So what is happening here, by ignoring the instructions a little bit and setting my machine for one class of neck sizes larger, I gave myself the full 10 inches that I would have expected in vertical quilt space on this machine. So to recap on just the element of the hoop, the rails themselves. The manual says that if I have a machine that is less than 14 inches, that I should use holes 1 and 4. And 1 and 4 are the holes that happen to be closest to, in the two sets, closest to the front rail, which gives me a compressed area of space, a VQS of 6 inches on this 12-inch machine. The reason being is because before I can get to all of my throat space, I bump into the front rail. So I have about 4 or 5 inches behind the rail that I cannot get to. So if I cheat a little bit and use the next sized, use the holes for the next group of sizings, then I'm going to use holes 2 and 5, which is where I'm at right now. Those are the center holes in both sets. And what that does is that gives me the full space. So I now get 10 inches of quilting space. I have all this excess space up front that I cannot use, but I can't use it because here is the needle. And here is the front rail. All of this in between is the lip of my machine, which I'm no longer bumping into. So I go all of this distance to quilt versus this distance to quilt, leaving all of that dead space in back. Remember, this is your hoop. This is your frame. And there are going to be times that you need to consider whether it's worth it to tweak and do a little cheat. That tweak, that workaround, that fix for you may give you exactly what you need. In my instance, 10 inches of vertical quilt space. So I hope that this little demonstration helps you on your journey and your experience with the Cutie Breeze with your domestic machines. Thanks for joining me. Hope to see you again.